Guys, you can start now.
Okay.
Okay. So
Should we record?
it's already recording.
Oh yeah, okay, start.
All right, so welcome everyone. Today we are proud to say that we're starting our new podcast with me, Tejesh, Manda, and Dharsan Selvakumar. We're calling the podcast Theory of Everything, and it's basically a podcast about teen activism and insight. And today we'll be talking about, the philosophy of human rights. And before we get into it, Darshan would like to say a few things about like what our podcast is really about because it is our first episode. Darshan?
Okay, thank you, Tejesh. Thank you everyone that's here with us today. Thank you for joining. So our podcast will be every week or once every 2 weeks, and we will try to focus on various different issues of the world. And for today's podcast, we're talking about human rights. But for other episodes, we may talk about environmental issues, technological issues, and other topics such as that. And that is why we've named our podcast The Theory of Everything, because we would like to discuss many different topics that have been afflicting the world.
Mm-hmm.
The way the podcast will run is that we will talk about some of these issues and then venture into a section of philosophical questions where we will ask a series of questions that me and Tejesh will answer collectively and have a discussion about. In the future, we will have guest stars and guest speakers that will join us in this discussion. But for the first episode, it's only going to be me and Tejesh.
Yep. So do you want to get into the first issue?
Sure. So the first issue that we want to talk about in context of human rights is the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement is a movement that originated in the United States and is now spread throughout the world to countries of large populations of people from African descent. So in the United States, the Black Lives Matter movement recently blew up following the unfortunate death of a man named George Floyd. George Floyd was a 46-year-old African-American man that was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, while being arrested for allegedly using a counterfeit bill. During the arrest, a police officer named Derek Chauvin knelt on his neck for several minutes, and unfortunately, George Floyd passed away without being able to breathe. On the side, there were a couple of people that were recording this incident, and that video spread all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and that's how this whole issue blew up. And following this murder, the cities of the United States had multiple riots where people got together and basically protested against police brutality and racism against African American individuals. Now, personally, I do not condone racism of any kind, and I support this movement because we should not see people being killed for the color of their skin or for their caste or for their religion or for any sort of division like that. And we should try to treat everyone the same way that we want to be treated. So
Exactly.
Tejesh, would you like to talk more about this?
Yeah, so essentially what Floyd's death did is it triggered a worldwide protest against police brutality, police racism, and a lack of police accountability. And multiple reforms have taken place after this. So an example of this is that in early June, the Minneapolis City Council voted an intent to restructure the police department as a new community-based system of public safety. They also canceled contract negotiations with the police union and announced plans to bring in outside experts to examine how the union contract can be restructured to provide transparency and flexibility for true reform. Along with Darshan, of course, everybody here at IFPWD will support the Black Lives Matter movement. We are totally against racism, and it's definitely like one of the biggest issues in the world right now, and it's causing a lot of trouble in the world. But thankfully, everybody, people like us, normal people like us are, pushing to make a change against this awful things that have been happening to people of color. George Floyd wasn't the only death that took a toll on us. It's also Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Jacob Blake, and many, many others that we would like to remember, and definitely not their deaths go in vain.
Yeah, well said, Tejesh. So Now we want to move on to another issue that is currently happening in the world that many people seem not to know about. And for this, we will travel around the world to China, where there are several individuals of the Uyghur Muslim ethnic group who are religious Muslims, but they are being persecuted against for their religion, and they are being put in concentration camps with many inhumane policies. And the entire population of this certain group is being subjected to certain repressive policies and basically ethnic abuse. And overall, around the world, not many people seem to know about this issue. And we would like to bring awareness to this issue by talking about it in today's podcast.
Yep.
So Tejesh, would you like to continue?
Yeah, so basically, as we said before, it's just discrimination. It's all hate crimes that are going on around the world. The Uyghur Muslims is something that not a lot of people are talking about, but people should definitely be paying attention to it. They are in China. They are having concentration camps for these Uyghur Muslims, and they are oppressing them. They are putting them in terrible conditions just because of what they are. And people have the right to choose what they want to be, what they want to believe in, and they can't control these factors. So for these people to be doing that, I think it's just terrible because everybody has the right. It's just a basic human right. What this whole podcast, this episode is about, it's basic human rights. And yeah, it's definitely wrong.
I agree. So people should not be forced to be forcibly put into cheap labor to manufacture clothing or other products. They should not be the victim of violent crimes just because of their religion, their race, their ethnic stance, and any of that. We cannot be forcing people to do certain things just because they are different from us. Rather, we should be including them because they are different from us, because it's always good to gain different perspectives from people of all varying ideologies and stances. So
Exactly.
speaking of this, we wanted to now move on to some of the issues in the Middle East. So Tejesh, would you like to talk about that?
Oh yes, so this isn't really a human right issue, but it's definitely an issue that we want to touch about. It's basically the crisis in Yemen. Basically in Yemen, what's going on is there's a civil war that's going on. And the thing is, there are limited resources being taken away from regular citizens of Yemen, either going to the military or they are destroyed in the midst of battle. And what's happening to Yemen is they're going through a national famine. They're going through a national famine, and a lot of children, women, and men are starving. Their families are dying off. It's something that we should definitely pay attention to. Darshan?
Yeah, and it's not just Yemen. There are other countries, Syria, Iraq, um, Afghanistan, where they're very war torn, and the people there are not able to have peaceful lives, and they don't have access to resources and safety. And I feel like we should bring awareness the to the problems of these people, because they are just people like us, and they deserve the right to be peaceful and happy. And so I urge all of you to donate to any charities, maybe donate to the UN, and try to basically have humanitarian efforts improved for people of these regions, and to help them get resources that they need so that they can have a good life.
Exactly. So should we move on to our next topic for human
Yeah,
rights?
so for today, the last topic of our human rights is the LGBTQ movement, which refers to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer movement. So basically, this is just a movement to advocate for people of various genders, sexual orientations, and basically personality identities. And in the common world, many people are against this movement because it defies what has been traditionally instituted as the proper way to define one's identity. So ever since the 1900s and up to the 2000s, there have been movements that are going for same-sex marriage, for gender liberation, and sexual orientation liberation. And I understand that not everyone may support this, and not everyone may be against this. I mean, it's just there are people that are on both sides of this issue, but I feel like we should at least respect people that are of this movement, and we should not discriminate against them because of their orientation.
Exactly. So one of the commonly stated goals among these movements basically is that there should be social equality for the LGBTQ community. There have been many hate crimes against them, such as the shooting in the gay club in Miami. Something like that can't happen because just because you go against this community that are just humans like us. They're just humans like us, and they deserve the same rights as us. They should love whoever they want to love. They should do whatever they want because it's not wrong. It's literally basic human rights, and they have the right to do that. So yeah, as I was saying before, a commonly stated goal among this community is that there should be social equality for them, and they've also been focused on building these communities or work towards liberation for a broader society for everybody who classifies in this community. So around the world, there are like not many countries. There are still some countries who have not, legalized same-sex marriage or anything like that. I definitely think we definitely think that it should be, passed because it's basically violating a basic human right. You should love whoever you want to love. You should be whoever you want to be.
I agree with that. And look, we understand that not everyone may support people
Yeah.
of different orientations and races and religions. But the idea here is even if you do not agree with them, if you do not support what they're doing, you need to at least give them basic human decency and respect. We should not be um, we should not be inflicting violence upon people that are different from us. We should not be discriminating against them or abusing them. Rather, we need to accept that we have different views on a certain topic or issue, and we need to respect them for it. And even if you do not support their movement, you shouldn't be discriminating against them just for being different than what you are and what you believe.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, so we are actually done with the topic portion of today's podcast. We have touched upon many, human rights issues, human crises around the world. So the second part of the podcast, which Darshan talked about before, but I'll say it again, we're just gonna ask each other, philosophical questions on the topic at hand. Give our opinion on it, give our answer to it, however we wanna see it fit. So so the first question, we'll get right into it. The first question that me and Darshan will both answer is, why should anyone respect human rights? Don't they have the right not to respect them? What do you think, Darshan?
That's a very good question. It really gets down to the philosophy of human rights because, I mean, technically speaking, no one should be obliged to respect human rights, and they do have the right not to respect them. But by right, we're defining it as their freedom of belief and speech. But we're not saying that that's the right thing to do. We're saying that they could do it if they want to. But fundamentally, everyone is a human being and therefore they're a moral being. And the majority of individuals, if they are trying, if it is shown that they're trying to violate someone else's personal dignity, they will try to refrain. So most people naturally do not want to hurt people. Rather, it's just their inner conscience and their inner ideas that or that conflict with the ideas of other people. So I guess to answer this question of whether they have the right not to respect these people, I would say they have the right to their own beliefs, but they must respect these people when meeting them in a social setting, even though they have conflicting beliefs on their inside, even though their conscience does not approve of it, they need to still respect them as other human beings because that's the same way you would want to be treated if you were differing from someone else's point of view.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. Anybody can have their, inner beliefs. They can believe, oh, this is right, this is wrong, this shouldn't be there. But, at the end of the day, everybody should be respected and treated equally. Everybody technically, like Darshan said, does not have to, believe in the same beliefs as others, but you should definitely respect them. You should definitely, appreciate them. You should definitely, if they're thinking this and you don't think the same way, it's okay. We live in a world of diversity. We live in a community with different ideologies. So, it's normal to have these opinions, these differing opinions. But at the end of the day, you have to, respect each other because, you know, everybody should be treated the way they want to be treated. What if you were in their position? You wouldn't be treated, you wouldn't want to be treated a different way. But, we should respect each other because, we want to create a world of positivity and love and peace.
That was well said, Tejesh. So we should probably move on to the next question in our list of philosophical questions.
Yes.
Our next question is, should criminals deserve all human rights? Is there any single person in the world or any type of people in the world that don't deserve human rights?
Oh, yeah, Darshan. I think absolutely everyone, even criminals, even the worst criminals should deserve human rights because, it's called human rights for a reason. If we're all human, then we deserve those rights. Criminals and heads of the states are humans too. The power of human rights lies in the very fact that they treat everyone as equal in terms of, possessing human dignity. But the thing is, they go to prison, they go to get reformed because, they are infringing on the safety of other people in the public. That's why they go to prison. They're infringing on other people's human rights. So they go into prison not to be taken away of their human rights, just to, have them in a safe environment where they can't do it again until they've learned their lesson. What do you think?
Yeah, I have a similar stance on this issue.
Mhm.
Personally, I do not support the way that the current criminal system is running. Rather, we should focus more on rehabilitation of these humans rather than punishing these humans because at the end of the day, I don't care if you're rich, you're poor. I don't care if you're this religion or that religion, this orientation, that orientation. We're all still human. We all still have the same organs and blood and everything. And so even if you're a murderer or you're a thief and you're a criminal, I understand that it may be your environment that is forcing you to go rob others for money because you do not have money. It may be your past childhood that has psychologically affected you, but we should not deprive these humans of human rights because of just what they have done. Rather, we need to help them understand the wrong things that they have done, and we need to help them improve so that the entire society improves as a whole. And we cannot be taking away rights from criminals just because they have taken away the rights of others, because an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, just like Mahatma Gandhi said. We cannot be taking an eye for an eye because that will just not lead to any improvement.
Excellent response, Darshan. Very good. We'll be moving on to the next philosophical question, which is, what is the difference between, having a preference or an opinion and, blatantly disrespecting a certain right?
Okay, we kind of touched on this question a little bit before,
Yeah, we did.
but having a preference or an opinion is different than disrespecting a certain right. So let me give you an example, right? Let's say you do not support someone of a certain religion, and I don't want to name any religions here. I want to remain neutral. But let's say you do not support someone of a certain religion. That can be your preference, that can be your opinion, but you cannot go up to them in person and clearly disrespect them to their face. You cannot be violent towards them. You cannot be biased or prejudiced towards them. You must treat them as your equal, even though you may have differing views from them. That's not a basis for you to treat them as inferior, because like we were saying, the whole idea is human rights. We're all human, but we have differences in these aspects. And you're allowed to have an opinion, but you cannot be using that opinion and using those differences to bring down others.
Exactly. Well said, Darshan. I completely agree with you. That example was good too. Um, there are a lot of things going on in the world right now that, you see somebody believing in this religion, and that's how most wars started in history. But we have to stop doing that. We have to respect each other's, religion, beliefs, everything like that. We can't blatantly disrespect them just because we believe in something else. Everybody is bound to their own opinion. They can have whatever opinion they want, but, you know, respect is what, ties us all together. It's what bonds humans together in this world. So that's why, everybody has different opinions, but everybody should have the same respect, is what I'm saying.
Well said, Tejesh. So building off of that, if you're saying that everyone should deserve human rights, but are there types of people, are there certain groups of people that deserve special human rights? What do you think on this issue? I mean, what do you think on
No,
this question?
no. Everybody deserves the same human rights. If you're a king, or if you're the lowest class, if you're poor and you're on the street, you should have the same equal human rights. This is how a lot of things happen. In the past, groups such as Rome and Europe, or have scheduled like these castes in India, and they have suffered a long-term discrimination in our societies, and they need special measures to enable them to access general human rights standards on an equal basis with others. And years of institutionalized discrimination and stereotypes, they've just brought this world down to a dark place. And we can only see to get better if we climb out of this dark hole that the past has put us in, and we have to learn to respect each other. The whole point of this episode is we need to spread awareness about respecting each other's human rights. That's what we can't repeat our past mistakes. That's what I think about this question. So no, all humans deserve the same rights. Nobody deserves less human rights. No human deserves more human rights. Everybody deserves the same human rights.
I agree. So speaking more about the caste in India and the social hierarchy, not just in India, but that have been in other social institutions around the world. I understand that it's the history, it's the traditions, it's the institutions that have been governing the society for thousands of years that can't be changed easily. And I understand if you want to believe in those traditions as that's the way that you were taught, but you're allowed to have your opinion. You can think someone about something else, but that's on your inside, right? But we cannot give some people more rights than others because of their certain orientation. Because innately, we're all human. We all have, we all 99.9% of our DNA matches in every single human, because we've all evolved together as a society from different regions around the world. We may have small amounts of DNA that are different, but for the most part, we are the same. And even the social constructs such as caste and social hierarchies may differ us in the society's standpoint, but that doesn't mean, in my opinion, and as this is a podcast of teen activism and insight, these are our opinions. My opinion is that although you may differ in the society's construct of a hierarchy, innately we are still human, and we should not be giving some people more rights than others. And that even, it doesn't matter if you're a group that is being discriminated against. It doesn't matter if you're a group that's not being discriminated against. You cannot ask for more rights than what a typical human should have. So let's say you are a group that has been the victim of oppression for hundreds of years. It doesn't make sense if you ask for more respect and rights than people that have not been oppressed. That just doesn't make any logical sense. And that will just lead to people of the other orientation disrespecting you more. Rather, you need to bring awareness to your status in this certain perspective. And you need to make sure that they understand that we are all still just human, and that these differences should not allow us to, these differences should not make us have lower rights than someone else, and rather we should all aim to treat everyone equally and give everyone the same amount of human rights. Do you want to build off of that?
Well said, Darshan, well said. So that was the last philosophical question, but to close off, I just want to say, me and Darshan just want to say our general opinion on human rights, our final opinion. Like the main issue here, the main issue we see in the world today, there are many hate crimes going on, many wars going on, just because other people have a different belief than others and we're not respecting them. I feel like if this world just came together and respected each other's beliefs, they don't have to believe in each other's beliefs. They don't have to have the same beliefs. But if we came together and, respected their beliefs, then a lot of these things, a lot of these major social issues in the world right now would not be happening. There wouldn't be, the BLM movement. There wouldn't be the Uyghur Muslim crisis. There wouldn't be a lot of things like this. What do you say, Dharsan?
I agree with that. The most of our issues, most of the human rights issues in the world stem from the fact that people are not willing to accept these differences, and rather they're using these differences to promote themselves while bringing others down. And we should try to refrain from doing things such as that, because it just leads to the deterioration of society over a long period of time. Rather, we need to focus on accepting our differences. We need to focus on helping others that are in need, because they are clearly in a lower position of resources than us. We need to help them. We need to help them get to a similar position to us. We need to respect everyone regardless of their race, their gender, their orientation, their religion, their ethnic group, their nationality, and this can go on. There's so many ways to differentiate people of society, but at the end of the day, like I said before, we're all human. We all need to respect each other. So
Exactly.
that was basically the general idea of our podcast, the first episode for today. We will try to get another episode in next week, or 2 weeks from now. We will send out another reminder or a social media post about it. We will try to have a guest speaker the next round, and we will focus on another issue in the world, such as environmental change, such as technological advancement, or even other issues that we may not have thought of yet. Tejesh, you want to say anything else before we sign off?
Yep. Thank you for everybody who was watching. And, for human rights, there are definitely plenty of websites, definitely plenty of, videos you can watch to educate yourself on these human rights and to donate. You can always help out, give a helping hand. It's not hurting anyone. It's only helping. So other than that, we have nothing else to say. Thank you for joining our first podcast. There are many more to come, many more topics to uncover, and many more teens to give their insight and activism. Thank you.
Thank you again.
So, okay, thank you guys.
Mhm.
We'll end the session for today now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.